guest who is going to go into a deeper dive into IBPM in manufacturing operations. So please, I'd like to welcome Michal Wierzchowski, who is the Senior Director of Operation Solutions for Jabil. Michal has 19 years of experience in manufacturing operations. He has strong experiences in building innovative digital supply chain solutions to support business objectives through process and system evolution. Recently, he's building business process management as a framework for Jabil to drive digital decision-making for investment and software development. Michal, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Michal was having a bit of trouble with the upload speeds of his connection. So what we have asked him to do is an audio-only presentation. So what I just want to make sure you understand, there will be no slides in this presentation, and his camera is going to be on momentarily, but then will be turned off, and there will be an audio-only presentation. And what we'll do is that we'll send to you after the conference, we'll send you the slides that are, applicable to his presentation. But you won't miss much because Michal is an awesome speaker and incredible insight. So listening carefully, start asking yours and submitting your questions as he goes along on his presentation. And at the very end, I'll bring your questions to him and we'll have a 10-minute exchange on those questions. So without further ado, Michal, thank you so much. Despite all the adversity, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing this very important message with our audience today.
Thank you, Jose. Hello, guys. It's really a great pleasure to be here together with you. As Jose was mentioning, I'm working for a Jabil company, and with a 19 years worth of experience, I'm really excited to share with you the journey that we've started a few months ago as part of business process management. And unfortunately, the technical difficulties that happened to me are not allowing me to share the presentation, but you're going to get it after that. But what I will do, I will take you through that journey, and I will bring up some important elements that were playing a really critical role on the whole journey. So let me go with the presentation, guys, and please put your comments and the questions on the chat, and then Jose after the presentation is going to bring it up. So if it comes to the integrated blueprint management, this is something that we've started to build for the company. And what I'm going to show you, what I'm going to take you through today, it is who Jabil is and what we are doing for the industry. Then I'm going to take you through IBPM journey, and I'm going to bring up couple of highlights that were really critical to make it successful, and I'm going to wrap it up with a business case that I think will be quite interesting for the audience to see how in practice the business process management works. If it comes to the company, who we are, our mission is to be the most technologically advanced and trusted manufacturing solution provider. What it means that we produce for many companies. The size of the company is around $25 billion annual revenue. We are on the market around 53 years, and we have 200,000 employees across the globe. Probably you don't hear a Jabil name too frequently, but then if you think about your assets that you are using, whether it is electronics, medical stuff, and etc., those are the things that we are producing for our customers. So we are on the consumer market. We have the packaging business. We are producing printers. We are producing retail, healthcare, and all of those kind of markets that creates a quite challenging environment, especially if it comes to the cost, but also if it comes to the leverage of the experience in management of the cost. So what happened within the organization 2 years ago when our new senior VP of operations joined the company and start to drive the effort, we came up with the idea or with the analysis, and that analysis became our hypothesis that we put in place. So if you look onto the market and everything what is happening, the cost is playing a tremendously important role, especially for manufacturing solutions providers where the margin is not that high. So that looking onto the cost is becoming really, really important, because with the growth of the revenue, what we observe was that the cost is growing as well. So what we did, we said, if we are able to keep the cost under control and then flatten it a bit, so that the revenue growth not necessarily is going to impact the growth of the manufacturing cost, then we are going to grasp much more benefits and financial results for us as a company. The way that we approached it was to take control of the process fully, and that's how we came up with the integrated blueprint management, where we focus on the standardization so that we can have sustainable operational excellence. We go with the innovation, where we are focusing on innovative solutions that drive transformations, and then transformation by itself, where throughout all of those steps, it is going to help us to build a new business models that are fitting better to the market that we have today. So that IBPM as a program, in the way how we were approaching that was to focus on the operational excellence, as I was explaining, standardize, innovate, transform. We define it as a strategic operational improvement platform that is helping to understand the KPIs, but also focused area, and it is helping to prioritize the effort, whether it is investment onto the hardware or investment onto the software. Then M&As, mergers and acquisitions, as a benchmark between how we operate versus how the company that potentially we are merging or acquiring works, and obviously the new business models. So that how we position the IBPM, which stands for Integrated Blueprint Management, we embed it into our operating system. What it means, operating system, it is how across the board we collaborate, starting from the CEO, going through the global roles, regional roles, site level roles, down to the desk of the planners, buyers, operators, and what is the right architecture that we could leverage to be able to connect all of those elements. So we embed IBPM as part of this operating model, and then we connect it with, on the one hand, with the unified metrics management that is showing how do we perform, and then also how our operations works, and then also JOS, which is JD operating system, that is corresponding to all of the day-to-day activities. And then looking onto those three elements, which is pretty much JOS as an execution platform on the day-to-day basis, we know exactly what is happening on our facilities. Unified metrics, which is our adoption per se, by looking onto the KPIs, and then IBPM, which is playing a role of alignment between those two, creates a really solid fundamentals so that we know what is going on the facilities. We know how we perform from the KPIs perspective, and then those two inputs are helping to drive alignment and then continuous improvement if it comes to the processes. So if it comes to the IBPM, I always like to use this analogy, how we treat IBPM, Integrated Blueprint Management. It is playing a role as an GPS, so that when you think about the GPS, nobody is thinking how it works. It just simply works. You type in an address, and then you expect the screen to show you turn left, turn right. Here are the traffic. Here are the traffic lights. Here's the congestions, and those kind of things. So we are using this analogy to approach IBPM, and we say from the process perspective, IBPM is our GPS, so that whatever the given point of the process is, by looking onto that from the IBPM perspective, we are able to recognize all of the dependencies, all of our procedures, tools, and the data, and how they correspond with each other. So the way how we approach the IBPM, we focus on 5 critical elements, like pillars. One is to have integrated end-to-end that is corresponding to our process flow, starting from the very beginning till the final moment when we invoice our customers, and we define what are the critical process steps and the checkpoints. Second element that we were focusing on was about the roles and accountabilities, to define who is the owner of that process, and then how this owner is contributing with the end-to-end design or development of the process. Then the third element, once we have the end-to-end integrated process, once we have defined roles and accountabilities, we say we have to have a forums and the right structure of the communication, so that all of those elements that we defined as part of the pillar 1 and 2, end-to-end process and accountabilities, can get all together, so that we can understand who is responsible for what and what are the decisions that we need to put in place. So combining those 3 elements, it is describing pretty well on how the process works. So we say, here is end-to-end, this is how it works. We say those are the roles and accountabilities that we assign to do the individual processes, and here is the forums and the communication platforms that will be reviewing those and making the decisions. So with those 3 elements, we say we also have to digitize the way of or the communication, so put in place a common collaboration platform. And here this role Signavio is playing, where we use cloud-based solution that is allowing us, on the one hand, to digitize processes, on the other hand, is allowing us to identify who's supposed to work with whom, and through the collaboration platform, it is allowing us to drive really efficient communication. And then with that being said, the element that put in place, moving around how we are going to manage the performance of the product, right? So 5 elements: end-to-end process, clear definition, where is the beginning, where is the end, what is the flow, what are the dependencies. Number 2, roles and responsibilities. Who is responsible for the function, who is responsible for the process, and what is the accountability. Point number 3, we put in place forums and integration and how the decisions are being made. Point 4, we digitize it, we put it into the cloud, we allow the people to interact in the real time. Point number 5, we were putting a performance measurement. So those 5 elements are became our true platform and architecture that is allowing us to control the process flow and then keep accountabilities. So then what happened after that, we say, now when we have an architecture, what are the individual layers that we want to put in place? Those are pretty simple. We start always with the process. We need to have understanding how the process works, what are the dependencies, and how they correspond to each other. Then we put the procedures and standard operating procedures and instructions as a part of the extension of the process, so that all of the compliance and all of the critical elements were kept under control. Then together with that, we put the tools layer, where we say processes are key, procedures, tools that use, and then to use closing the KPI cycle. And the IBPM is all cutting the governance, but also all of the layers. So how they with others, how we distribute with each other. When we was mentioned, told that and then you came up with how organization and what we want to taking the control. Our golden model that we've put in place as part of our governance and the layers. We define the cost structure so that we can understand where the attention should be. And then we define the network between different subject matter experts so that they can drive a research of the places that we have to put on attention, whether from the financial perspective or from the non-value add perspective, right? Where non-value add means that we do something that we are not getting paid for. So that was the first element, and I'm calling that crawl, walk, run type of the approach. So came with the idea, take it under control. Then last year, 2020, we spent to transform and run the cultural change, because I think it is not going to be a secret if I will tell you guys that the change management within the whole integrated blueprint management is the key element. Because one thing is to define the foundations, define the framework, but at the same time, making sure that the people are following the methodology and the philosophy is a key element. So last year we focused on the transformation, the cultural change. We were expanding IBPM, and then this year we are focusing on the self-sustaining improvement cycle. So going through those last 2 years, and then this year and next year, we are going from the foundations, from the framework and the way how the process works, and what are the critical elements like the tools, KPIs, and the data. We were expanding the culture, we were expanding the philosophy across the company. And then this year, we are taking an advantage of that, where we can relatively easy define what are our focused area, and then how we are approaching them. Moving forward, if it comes to the first 15 months, you might want to think, or you might want to ask the question to yourself or for me, if it was easy. Of course, it wasn't easy. Starting from defining the framework and aligning with the stakeholders, that was a very first element that I was focusing to put in place, and I think without the executive support, especially if it comes to the cultural change, it wouldn't be that successful, right? So I think I'm really happy to share with you that I was able to start it in the right place, where we secured the executive sponsorship, so that every roadblocks, it wasn't just for the group or for the project team that was running that, but it was the accountability across the board with the clear message from the executives. Then we defined our global process owners from different functions that became one go-to person if it comes to different functional responsibility for manufacturing, quality, planning, purchasing, inventory control. And we have established the network where the people started to work together, and they were defining what are the dependencies, and what is more important for me, they were able to say, if I'm going to improve my process here, then I need to pay an attention, and I need to be in touch or in communication with manufacturing and engineering, because if I will make changes on my process, then it will trigger dependencies, and it will trigger some changes on the other function. So that was a really breakthrough on our journey, where we defined how the communication happened, but also how the dependencies are being highlighted across the board. So that you might think how physically it works. So Signavio, as a business process management tool, helped us a lot, because what we did, we defined three layers if it comes to the level of the details of the process. So we say on the highest level, we want to focus on plan to ship, procure to pay, and quote to cash, which are our major three elements where we make money. And then all of the supporting groups have to be attached to those three elements. Then we say within the plan to ship, if we understand what is the end-to-end, we are clarifying what is the full flow, starting from the moment when the customer is coming to us and saying, hey, JBL, I want you to produce that specific product for me, throughout the bill of material, throughout the manufacturing flow, throughout the supply chain interaction, till the moment when we invoice the customer. We defined what are those steps, and then pulling this down to the individual steps of the process, we find what are the results that everybody have to follow. And what appeared, we put everything in Navi and we started to drive it. It appeared that 70% of our processes, you might be surprised, but 70% of the processes are similar across the globe. So what we did, we said integrated blueprint management is playing that role that is allowing us to define how the operations should work or how the facilities should be working, and then they have to be compliant to those standards. So what is giving us is A, we are similar between the facilities. B, we've created unified language for the subject matter experts, so that when they talk with each other, they don't need to explain the process, so that the other party will understand. And the third one, it allowed us to put a really straight linkage with our financials across the board. So those three elements were playing a really critical role to make the breakthrough with our executive also, because suddenly we started to see how the facilities are performing from the process perspective, and it helped us to leverage all of the innovation that is happening at the site level. So we went through the sites and we say, this is our standard, this is our baseline, and then that baseline was fed by the facilities, and then suddenly we discovered that there is a tons of good practices that we could use as standard baseline, and those were collected, and then we adopt them as a baseline. Okay, so you might think about the remaining 30% when I say when the 30%. So the 30% is being defined for special regulations, whether it is country specific, whether it's region specific, or the customer business specific. So we are allowing the sites to have some kind of a flexibility, but only for the specific elements. The common ones, they have to be aligned, and they have to be connected to the baseline. So from there, when we think about the use cases and the way how in practice we took an advantage of the standardized process. So let me bring a really quick example. We went through the IBPM as a subject matter experts community. We said our MRP place is of the process where of the how we are driving in the company are making place. So then we put the attention over there. And then the more we were pulling this down to understand what are the steps, what are the decisions, the closer we were getting to the MRP by itself, where our people are making decisions on how to place the order, what to order, and then what is the lead time, and how I am collaborating with the suppliers. So those decisions became a really critical element. And what we did, we started to think how we can improve those decisions. Instead of doing all of those decisions in people's heads, and those decisions are really depending on the experience and the amount of time that the individuals spent on the role, we said, let's try to extract all of those repeatable activities that are happening, and potentially they are going to our R&D farms, so that we free up the time of those people that are making the critical decisions to focus on the true value decisions. So that was the first element. The second element that we put in place, we say now when we isolate a bit the critical decisions, we started to think, what is the technology that we could use? And then what we realized is that with the AI and machine learning, by putting machine learning into the mix, it can start to learn about the decisions that are being made and record if those decisions brought an expected result. So what we did, we put something that is helping us to define around 150 different features as part of the machine learning, and it creates a common pattern So what we do within the 500,000 different parts that our people are maintaining, we say, let's try to cluster those materials based on the similarity, whether it is the same commodity, whether those are the most expensive parts, and we started to cluster them. So suddenly, instead of having 500,000 parts, individual parts that somebody have to touch, by grouping that, we reduce the amount of those analyses that the people have to do in their head. They have a cluster and they say X amount of the materials belongs to the similar behavior group. And if I will make an adjustment for this part, and if I will inject it, and if I will extend it to that entire cluster group, then easily I can influence X amount of the materials instead of just reacting to one. So so that is the use case, the true use case that is helping us to keep driving the right decisions and then still corresponded to the overall process. So closing a loop about the use cases, we went with the RPA. We defined what is the right right group of the activities that potentially could be executed in the same way on a daily basis. We defined what is the AI type of the solution that will help us to learn from the decisions that the people are making. Plus, we are clustering individual events. And then what is helping us when we went through that, it is helping us now when we understand all of those decisions, we see what are the dependencies throughout the quality aspect of it, throughout the location and logistics that is corresponding to the way how the materials are coming. And then we connected that to everything what is happening on the floor so that we understand what are the events, what are the potential challenges that we might face on the floor would influence those critical decisions. So pretty much where we are going with that, we are going from the process focused element in the platform, in the forum, to the point where suddenly we are able to predict what are the potential failures that could happen or the issues, and upfront we are able to avoid them. And it is all happening because we understand our process. We have a clarity how the different functions are corresponding with each other, and then upfront all of those dependencies are being considered and they are being secured so that one change is not affecting in the negative way the work or the way how the other function works. So so that being said, wrapping up the whole IBPM method in philosophy. Integrated blueprint management for JBL company means that we are process focused. Everything starts with the process, and that is what is helping us to be standardized across the globe with the way how we interact, in the way how we work. Second one, we are defining a really clear definition on what is the baseline level if it comes to the processes, and what is the expectations towards our facilities, and what they should be compliant with. We defined our technology stack, which are our tools. When we started the inventory, we had tons of different tools that were playing the same role. So by doing that and looking onto the tool technology stack through the process, we realized that we don't need all of those tools. We defined unique tools that are supporting the process in the same way across the globe. Then we defined our procedures. We standardized the procedures. It is clear and clean. Then we went with the KPIs to make sure that we understand what is how we are managing our process and what is critical from the process, but also from the financial perspective. And of course, pulling this down to the data layer, we know what are the critical elements that we have to take care of and how they correspond to the process. So process, procedures, tool, KPIs, and data, and we close the loop and we have a self-correcting correcting environment that is helping us to, first of all, focus on the right places. 2, it is helping to prioritize the investment and get the clearly defined ROI. 3, it is helping us to leverage a great amount of people that we have across company and make sure that continuously we are improving our processes. Okay, so that would be all what I have for today. After this session, I'm going to share the presentation with Jose and Brian, so we can get the flavor on what the IBPM is, and he will get a little bit more insight to what I'm talking about. But our journey don't stop here. It is moving forward, and we are going to drive it and improve the way how we drive the process, but also we are going after the predictable environment that will be equipped with the AI and machine learning type of the solution. Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Michal, thank you so much for working through all of the challenges there on the transmission. Still delivering a great presentation, tremendous insights. Excuse me. I'm gonna bring my camera back on here so the audience can see me. So thank you for the audience for hanging with us during the transmission. I know it's difficult sometimes to get the mental model of some of the things he's talking about, but he had some, for those of you who joined the session a little bit later and not quite sure what happened, why I don't see his slides, why I don't see his camera, there was some slowdown on the upload transmissions at his site due to a storm that's happening at his location. And so what we're going to do for you is that he's been kind to share his presentation with us, and Brian Raffel will send that out to everybody along with the link and passwords for the recordings. He will also attach the presentation from Michal. So Michal, thank you so much again for sharing that. And we do have some questions that are coming up here, and feel free to ask questions for the next few minutes still, that I'm monitoring those questions coming in. And first questions and commentary is a bit of a realization that I don't think that most people in this call understood the size and magnitude of the operations for Jabil. I mean, over 200,000 employees and over $25 billion in revenue from heavy manufacturing operations, which is fascinating. So this is no small change and transformation. This is a large scale transformation for everybody in the organization. What if you may have mentioned this, but just to put us in the same level playing field here, tell me a little bit about the history of business process management and development at Jabil. If you can go back a few years, what has that evolution has looked like in the last few years?
Yeah, this is quite interesting question, because you might think IBPM came or was put in place few months ago, but what you are saying, it is a really right statement, because the evolution of the process, especially in our space within the global manufacturing solutions providers, it is really critical to understand how the process works and what are the critical checkpoints. Because, for example, if we produce a similar type of the product somewhere in Malaysia location, and the same or similar product is being produced in Latin America location, then what you need to make sure that you are able to exchange the experience, and you need to be able to extract all of those potential failures so that you can avoid them from happening, right? So throughout the years, it wasn't like suddenly we came in because the process wasn't working. It was an evolution, and I think I would say that Jabil is on a really good position right now from the process perspective, because we are process-oriented company. And then when we got into the point where we realized that the technology stack have to be upgraded and all of those kind of things, we pull all of those elements together. So I think the biggest challenge that we have, just to answering that question in terms of the level evolution, I think we were really well focused or process organized company, But what was missing was the interaction between the different functions. So running the IBPM and gaining this breakthrough where the people suddenly started to work across the different functions, I think that was the biggest transformation on the overall journey that we are in right now.
One of the things, Michal, that's striking about your presentation is that you speak with the knowledge of someone who has experienced the good, the bad, and the ugly through many years of actually implementing changes. It's not a theoretical approach. You're talking about practical approaches for transformation here. And one of the things that resonates is your focus on governance, on structure, roles and responsibilities. I want to make sure that I'm interpreting that correctly. That is a big part of your success in this transformation, isn't it? That you have that clear governance with clear roles and responsibilities and the structure. How much of your success you think is attributed to that component?
I think it plays a really critical role. And whenever you talk about the governance and the control and accountability, you have to be really careful to not turn it to too bureaucratic type of the process, right? So it is a key element of the success, because without the structure, I don't think we would be able to get that far, and we won't be able to extract that much of the potential savings or the reduction in terms of the manufacturing cost. But again, this is a critical role, but there is a really tiny line that you have to continuously watch to not pull it too much on this bureaucratic type of the process. And I think we found the way how to do it, because by saying a governance and the framework for the accountabilities and responsibilities, we haven't been running that like a centrally driven organization. It was all for the people, and then our subject matter experts are responsible for that. And if they see that there is any type of the elements that potentially won't be necessary for them to make decisions, they have an authority to influence the governance and change it.
Very well, very well. And some of the roles that you describe is the critical importance of, for example, in a very specific way, having clear process owners, so that there is an ownership of the process, that it's not a trivial matter. As we all know, in large organizations, process ownership can be quite difficult to nail down. So you mentioned a lot of very good practices there with respect to that governance and structure that is practical, as you said, not a bureaucratic system. It should be clearly defined and practical. Now, if I go to my own experiences in manufacturing early in my career, when I was with Sony and we were developing global manufacturing operations for displays specifically, we developed the operations in Japan, and then it was transferring that to the United States was quite a challenge. And then we're transferring that to Brazil and Europe, and every continent has its own way of looking at things, right? And you start the discussions with the group, with the teams in those regions, and they'll say, well, I understand how you do it, but the way that we do it is 80% different. And right. and then you get engaged in that long collaboration effort. And you mentioned this during your presentation, that, and I thought it was striking, that once you get to those to the meaningful discussions, to the deep understanding discussions, I think you quote a number like 70% of the process were common. But that's not an easy conclusion to get to. I'm curious about that process that you use to get to that point.
Yeah, and this is really exciting and interesting way, because when we started to build the IBPM framework, here's going to be a funny part of that. To make sure that the subject matter experts within the same discipline are having a common understanding, I had to spend 1 to 2 weeks together, just putting them into the one room, using tons of flip charts, tons of whiteboards, so that they sync up. And then what we realized, it is not about being different, it is about different definition. So, so what we did, we started to create the framework, and we haven't been dictating as a IBPM per se, like a role that is going and telling to every function, hey, listen, this is how it should work. What we did instead, we put our subject matter experts together and we say, put your best guess on what is the baseline process. And then when they're going through that exercise, suddenly they started to build a common definition. If I'm saying X, it means X. It doesn't mean Y, right? So we sync them up among different facilities. We sync them up between different regions, so that when they went through that exercise, we needed different functions. They came to us by themselves saying like, can you believe that right now, after us working together, we suddenly see those commonalities? And that was the purpose of the exercise that we put in place. And we were a bit provocative, saying, you go and figure out what is your end-to-end process. And then by doing that, right now they don't need to spend tons of hours in the same room just to explain how the process works. Because if somebody is saying customer forecast planning, they know exactly what are the major steps and they know exactly what are the tools. So it reduces the time of the reduction of the reaction, but also it is helping to pull it up and say, this is a common piece of the process that everybody follows. If you pull it down, the 30% is unique because of region, because any other restrictions. We have.
Michal, thank you so much for taking the time to share your expertise with us. Fascinating view of advancing business process management in large-scale manufacturing operations. We had covered culture today. We had covered people. We covered transactional process, and we're wrapping up with an incredible demonstration of advanced business process management in manufacturing. I understand the challenges you had to overcome to deliver this, and I really appreciate your patience and your discipline and resilience to get through the presentation and deliver a very good presentation to all of us. On behalf of our global participants, I want to thank you for that.
Thank you so much. I got and you got the contents of what we are doing, but again, after the session, I'm going to share a few slides, so it will just combine whatever I was explaining and whatever I was painting in front of you guys with some couple of graphics and the way how IBPM works. I really appreciate it. It's a big pleasure to be here, and I hope that you enjoyed the session, even with all of those challenges that we were going through.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Michal Wierzchowski, Senior Director of Operation Solutions for Jabil. Incredible view of what it looks like in a $25 billion manufacturing operations with 200,000 plus employees. This is transformation and business process management at large scales. So very grateful for that. Thank you for your for staying with the presentation despite the technical difficulties that he experienced there at the source. And I want to just set you up for tomorrow. So tomorrow we have 4 terrific presentations. We're going to start the day with the Vice President at Tolkien talking about enterprise no-code automation and how to rapidly improve efficiency and adaptability across your processes, people, and technology. That will be followed up by a presentation from Siemens, and we're going to have a leader from Siemens, Thorsten Gasson, directly from Germany, talking about a specific application of artificial intelligence and that they are using at Siemens to speed up the proposal phase in project businesses by over 300%. And they're using an intelligent tender document screening approach. So a use of artificial intelligence in a very critical business process for them. And you do not want to miss that. It's going to be a really interesting site, a bit more of a technical insight on this application. We're going to follow that up with a shift towards business process management and healthcare. And we're going to have the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Institute for Healthcare Excellence coming directly to us to talk about practical and intentional ways to leverage positive psychology to create a culture enabling individuals and teams to thrive with recovery and peak performance. This is really, really interesting look at the human side of improvement, innovation, of culture building. It will tie in very nicely with some of the things that we explored today, and how are this being applied to in healthcare. Dr. Maples, who is going to be presenting this along with Jennifer Cripper, he spent 25 years with the Mayo Clinic, applying these practices, these best practices to healthcare, and he's going to bring that to us tomorrow. And the last session tomorrow will be one from a lecturer from the University of Waterloo in Canada, and Mr. Peter Carr is going to be with us, and he's going to talk about holistically improving the probability of transformation success through collaboration. So he has tremendous experience and knowledge from the research side, from the practical side on culture, business, and digital transformations, and he's going to do a deeper dive with us on what greatness looks like. So much in terms of insight and excitement coming up tomorrow. Between now and then, if you want to collaborate, if you want to connect, if you want to ask questions, if you want to see the updates that I'm going to post, look under Jose Perez on LinkedIn, look at the posting for this session, ask questions that maybe went unanswered so far, make a comment, congratulate the speakers for what they are sharing with you, and add to the discussion that's taking place there. So again, on LinkedIn, under my name, you see the posting. Feel free to collaborate freely. I will wrap up the session now. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow at the same start time here at this broadcast. Thank you for now. Have a good rest of your day.